So we're going to kick things off with Harry and Meghan because of this couple, I would say, more polarizing than any other couple in the world. And boy, Erica, before I read some of these comments, why do you think they're so polarizing?
Well, I think, a lot of it is rooted in envy, and green isn't everyone's color. You're talking about people who have been in the spotlight. There's a disparity and a huge wealth gap. It seems like they aren't exactly understanding what everybody else is going through, although they do take their time and actually spend time in less, let's say, underserved communities and countries. The other thing is the royals have been thrusted upon us for quite some time. It's very hard to go a day without getting an alert about what's happening in the palace, which is very strange to me. But I also think that there's a racial factor here as well. Obviously, we know what our racial components in history are, and we also know about England as well. So people who want to stop and say everything's not about race, no, everything isn't about race, but some things are, and this is one of them.
Yeah, it's admirable what they do philanthropically. Did I say that right?
You nailed that.
I tried to. Anyways, I didn't. But anyways, you know what I'm saying. I think we put too much weight on them, is what I'm trying to say, right? They're out there doing good in the community. We should commend them for that, right? We put all this weight on like they're the go-to face couple. I personally don't. We talk about them a lot. I don't think we need to. I don't find them that interesting as a couple, right? I'm not that into the royal family. I don't know that much about it. I didn't watch The Crown, and people who think they're educated on the royal family, their only education's from The Crown, so relax, like you read a book or something.
Totally.
So, it's just, for me, I don't hate them, but I don't really admire them either. I admire what they do, like I said, philanthropically, but that's it.
Yeah, you know what?
Came back.
Jeff, we forget that the British had an empire. They literally have the weight of the world. People really do look to this couple to fill a role, and I think when they didn't fill that role and they decided to act like human beings that weren't happy in the situation, I think people pushed back on that, and I think we're missing the bigger thing is that this is a much cooler princess story. Because I tried to show my daughter Snow White, and she's like, why is she, or Sleeping Beauty, she's like, why is she on the floor? She's using a calming headspace app. This would be a cool princess story. It's like, we don't like living like this. This is boring. We're going to LA.
We need to take a moment, because what we just watched was a rare miracle. A panel speaking honestly about Harry and Meghan without collapsing into hysteria, conspiracy, or royal propaganda. It felt like watching a window open in a musty room that's been sealed for centuries. Suddenly there's air, clarity, and a little bit of common sense floating around, and you just know, somewhere in the UK, a royal commentator is sobbing into a packet of Walker's crisps. Let's talk about it, because that entire conversation revealed something the British press and the monarchy have spent years trying to bury under a mountain of poppy scandals, editorial hit pieces, and aggressive pearl clutching. The real issue with Harry and Meghan has never been their behaviour. It has always been what their existence exposes, and that panel unknowingly peeled back every layer. They started by acknowledging a simple truth. Harry and Meghan didn't become polarizing on their own. They were pushed into that position by people who needed them to be controversial. If there isn't chaos, the tabloids don't sell. If there isn't a villain, the monarchy can't pretend to be the hero. If there isn't a distraction, the institution can't hide its cracks. The media manufactured a spectacle, then got mad the actors walked off set. And underneath that, envy. Loud, deep, unhinged envy. The moment that panelist talked about jealousy being at the root, I swear I could hear the distant sound of royalists screaming like banshees, because that is the one word the monarchy can't stand to hear. Envy explains everything they don't want to acknowledge. Envy of Harry's freedom, envy of Meghan's charisma, envy of their influence, their success, their global relevance, their ability to live without being puppets tied to a crumbling institution. Imagine spending your life being told your value comes from the crown, then watching a spare walk away and still be more impactful than the entire firm combined. That would sting. Deeply. And the idea that people hate them because they don't relate to the common person? Please. The royal family hasn't related to common people since electricity was invented. That talking point is nothing but smoke and mirrors meant to distract from an uncomfortable fact. People dislike Harry and Meghan because they broke the illusion. They walked away from the gold cage, and the world watched the cage crack. Another honest moment from the panel was the acknowledgement that Harry and Meghan actually do hands-on work. Real philanthropy. Not holding a plaque for 15 seconds philanthropy. Not stand behind a rope and squint at the camera charity sessions. Not performative, but purposeful. And this is why the royalists fall apart. It's why the UK press becomes unhinged. Because every time this couple quietly shows up somewhere, the entire centuries-old machine looks outdated and ineffective. Harry and Meghan make service look natural, the monarchy makes service look staged, and the panel could see the difference immediately. There was also a moment when someone pointed out how strange it is that the world is constantly bombarded with updates about the British royals. Thank you. This is what we've been saying for years. Nobody asked for daily alerts about palace corridors or someone blinking at an event. Nobody requested hourly updates on who wore navy versus who wore black. Nobody begged for another 20-tweet thread about how Meghan walking next to Harry is breaking protocol. People are exhausted, not with Harry and Meghan, but with the obsessive, unsolicited royal spam the UK press floods the internet with. A panellist even acknowledged the role of race, and let me tell you, that right there would have caused a meltdown on British morning TV. To hear an American host say out loud what grown adults in the UK media pretend to be blind to. Oh, it was delicious. Because it's obvious. It's documented. It's historical. And it's part of the story, whether royalists want to face it or not. Then came the funniest part. The host who said he doesn't love or hate them. He simply doesn't find them that interesting. And do you know what? That is the American baseline. Which is what enrages the British press even more. Because the UK tabloids built their entire empire on the fantasy that the world hates Meghan as much as they do. They write 3,000 words a day about her, claiming she's universally despised. They churn out documentaries, podcasts, editorials, specials, op-eds, 27 royal experts, and a handful of random cousins nobody asked for. And Americans? Most are like, they seem cool. Good for them. The disconnect between UK hysteria and global indifference is the monarchy's biggest nightmare, because if the world isn't joining the hate, then the problem isn't the couple, it's the media. And when that panellist pointed out that people expected Harry and Meghan to play a role, oh, that hit hard. He said it casually, but it sliced the monarchy's narrative in half, because that's the truth. The world wanted a fairy tale, but they wanted it on their terms. They wanted a glossy princess trapped in a fantasy from the 1950s. They wanted Harry to be the charming prince in a costume. They wanted both of them to smile while being slowly suffocated. They didn't want them to act human. And when they finally did, the reaction was vicious. Not because the couple changed, but because the illusion shattered. The best part was the modern princess analogy. Children today don't fantasize about passive princesses waiting around for life to happen to them. They want strong women, independent storylines, agency, power, joy, and freedom. Meghan represents exactly that. Not the damsel in distress, not the frozen-in-time royal figure, but someone who looked at a toxic environment and said, "No thanks, I choose myself." That's not just a modern princess arc, that's evolution. And that is what frustrates the monarchy the most. They cannot evolve, they cannot grow, they cannot adapt, they are stuck in a museum display. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan are out here living a Netflix-era love story with real-world impact, global branding, and actual mental health awareness. The panel wrapped everything together beautifully, without even intending to. They showed that Harry and Meghan don't provoke global chaos. They provoke insecurity in the people who gained power through silence, obedience, and tradition. Their existence is a mirror, and when certain people look into that mirror, they don't like their reflection. Harry and Meghan moved on. They healed, they grew, they built careers, homes, opportunities, and communities far away from the manufactured drama. Meanwhile, their critics remain stuck in the same tired loop, repeating the same recycled talking points, clinging to the same outdated system, desperately trying to pretend the world hasn't changed. But DBL just revealed the truth. The world has changed. People can see through the noise. And Harry and Meghan are simply living their lives while others spiral. This clip didn't expose anything about the Sussexes. It exposed the people obsessed with them. And honestly, it was glorious.